Welcome back. Welcome to Sacred Significance, episode 5 of season 3. Listen, we've been talking about everything related to beliefs and expectations, when they agree, when they don't. We've talked a lot about where they originate from, how they are strengthened, confirmation bias. If you've missed any of that, you got to go back and you got to listen to 1, 2, 3, and 4. But today we're going to be talking specifically about data, feedback loops, and where the confirmation of what you and I believe really lives. There's always data, there's always feedback. In our environment, we're constantly being mirrored and reflecting back what we actually believe is visible. So you won't want to miss today's episode. We're going to get right into it. Call a friend and tune in. Welcome back. Welcome to Sacred Significance, episode 5 of season 3. I am your host, Dr. Veronica Cochran. Thank you so much for joining me today. So today I want to talk about the confirmation, like where is the proof of what we believe? And by proof, I mean our world is constantly giving us reflective feedback. There's feedback loops everywhere. We say we believe something. We have the data in our world to prove if we believe it or not. So we're going to be talking about today where the confirmation is. Where are the confirmations that prove that we believe what we say we believe, at least what we desire to believe? And what happens if the confirmation is not there? What then do we believe? Okay, so we're going to talk about that today. You won't want to miss it. If you got a piece of paper, a pencil, you're going to need it because we're going to talk about 4 levels of confirmation. And I believe that we have to really understand how these work, how they play, and then ultimately how we can begin to inquire of where these are in our life so you can see if what you say you believe is actually visible, right, in your life. So the first one is something we're going to call mental confirmation. I would even call this an intellectual confirmation, which simply it's as simple as I say I believe it. I believe it, right? It's the mental conviction of a belief. It's very simple. I believe it. It could be something as simple as I believe it's going to rain today. I have a mental, intellectual conviction that it is going to rain today, right? So underneath that, there's something called an emotional confirmation. That's where I feel it, right? I feel like it's true. I feel like it is true. And emotions, remember we talked about this, they are incredibly strong. So on the emotional confirmation level, people say, I feel very strongly about it. You ever said that? I feel very strongly about what I believe. I'll die on this hill. People say that all the time. I feel very strongly about what I believe. Well, that's where that comes from, right? The feeling that what I believe is worthy of my belief. I feel like it must be true. I feel like, that what I'm saying is actually true. I believe it. I feel it. That's very important. Okay. Now those two by itself, I think, convict, intellectual belief that I believe it, right? And then the feeling that I believe it, those go together. I call those maybe the wonder twins. They make, it's the easy confidence. And I can say it and I feel it. I feel like what I believe is true. But let's talk about where the data really lives. The next level of confirmation is in the behavioral zone. Okay, now that's behavioral confirmation, which means our behavior should always support, correspond, or align to what we say we believe. Okay, so that's the behavioral confirmation. If I say eating healthy is important and all I'm downing is cookies and candy, the chances are I don't really believe that. Okay, because my behavior should support, align, correspond to what I believe. Okay, so we talked about the mental level. Right? That's just the intellectual. I believe X, I believe Y, I believe Z, whatever that is. The next one is I feel it. Feelings are very important, right? They cozy up all the time to what we believe. I feel it, right? I feel very strongly about what I'm saying. People say that all the time. But then there's one level deeper. That's the behavioral zone where I'm acting, behaving, choosing, and deciding, right, out of a belief system. Acting, behaving, choosing, and deciding out of a belief system. So that's one other layer of feedback. Then let's drop one level deeper. That's our life, right? That's all out here. How does that mirror back to me what I believe? Okay, so if I believe saving money is really important, but if you look at my savings account and I have $20, chances are there's some level of conflict in the belief lanes in terms of confirmation. my bank account does not support what I say I believe, that I really believe saving money is important. Okay. I should see that somewhere, right? It should be somewhere in a bank near you, a few $100s, a few thousand, whatever it is. Okay. So I want you to see that there are 4 levels of confirmation. First, we always, what I say I believe, people fight over those things, right? We fight over what we say we believe. But our behaviors do a different level of fighting. They do a different level of antagonizing to prove or disprove whether or not what we say we believe is actually true. So before we go into the confirmations, let's talk one more time about confirmation bias. Confirmation bias is the brain's way of taking shortcuts. It's the brain's way of preferring familiar. It's the brain's way of doing 3 things, right? We talked about this. One is making sure you pay attention to what confirms what you believe. Number 2, making sure you ignore contradictory evidence, right? And then 3, making sure you act upon what you believe. So that's confirmation bias. That runs all the time in the background. It's like a program that's just running and running and running. And it happens all the time in a nanosecond. It happens all the time in a nano. It's just that easy. So when I'm talking about confirmation and the levels of confirmation, I want you to know this is going to require a level of awareness. It's going to require a level of pausing, a level of really scrutinizing to see whether you have the data to support what you believe. Why would this be important, Dr. Veronica? Because we say we believe a lot of things. And then we wonder why our life doesn't bear the fruit of what we say we believe. Could it be that if we just looked at the confirmation, if the confirmation is not present, perhaps the belief is not either? So I want you to really think about that. So confirmation bias is happening all the time. It's the brain is doing its job, which is why it's hard to get a new outcome, right? The pathway is set. The neurological pathway is already mapped. He's already helping me pay attention to the things, ignore other things. I'm already acting in concert, participating in what I expect. Now, these layers of confirmation are really important. But I want to ask you, so mentally and emotionally, we can cozy up to those. I can tell you I believe something, feel very strongly about it, and maybe that's as far as it has to go. But typically, where I'm going to ask you to look, I'm going to ask you to look at the next 2 levels to see whether or not you really have feedback that proves and validates and confirms that what you say you believe, you actually believe. Does the behaviors you elicit, you embody, you practice, do those behaviors support what you say you believe? Pause. Think about it. Think about it. If you had to look at your behaviors as though you were studying somebody other than you, as though you were doing a case study on somebody other than you, and you had only their behaviors to look at under a really fine magnifying glass, and they gave you 3 to 5 core beliefs, would those behaviors prove they believe those things? This is where, for me, I see the greatest gaps in the people I coach. The greatest gaps, because we do intend and we do feel strongly about our convictions, but our behavior says otherwise. Our behavior proves that what we say we believe isn't deep enough in the fabric yet. It's not deep enough in the beliefs where it matters yet, because the behavior still shows I believe something other, right? So it's really important, because think of it this way. Let's say for your promotability, you wanted to maybe upskill, right? So you're like, oh, I'm gonna take some public speaking classes. I'm gonna learn how to speak better. I'm gonna, and so maybe you go get a class, but maybe you don't finish the class. Now you start the class, but you don't finish the class. Well, why would you not finish the class? Right? You had an intention, right? But maybe there's something in the identity bucket, something that you're behaving off of that maybe you haven't addressed, that maybe your voice isn't worth hearing. Maybe it's the belief that I don't have that kind of value, or nobody will listen to me, right? So even though you could be saying, hey, I'm going to go get this particular skill because it's going to help me in my career, but maybe there's a reason why you haven't been able to finish it. Maybe there's a reason why you stopped halfway through and you haven't gone back. Maybe it's because it's that behavior is reflecting something back to you that you can work on. This is the thing about behaviors. I'm really looking for the confirmation here. It's meant to show us the data, not so that you can judge yourself and beat yourself unmercifully. It's not meant for you to sit in judgment and point at all the places where you don't have alignment. That's not the goal. The goal is that you would do the work to create alignment. The goal is that you would begin to see that your behaviors do not pan out. They do not align and prove what you say you believe. The work is in changing that connection so that what you say you believe is actually demonstrated in the way you behave. So the idea is not to just eat our lunch. The idea is to fix it, right? It's to go and fix it. So now I want you to consider this. So once the behaviors, and maybe on the behavioral level, you're like, no, my behaviors support what I believe. I do X, Y, and Z. I do A, B, and C. I do 1, 2, and 3. It all supports what I believe. Let's drop one level deeper. If I look in your life, right? So now I'm moving beyond you and your personal embodiment. I'm looking in the reflective lens of your world. Does your life, its events, its experience, your reality, your lived experience, does that validate what you believe? You believe God is for you. God is so for you. He is for you to prosper. He has made it so that you could be wealthy, and yet you live check to check. Does your life bear witness? Does it actually reflect in proof what you say you believe? Like I said, maybe we can get past the mental, the emotional, maybe even the behavioral. But the life, there's just data there. We can't fool life, right? Life is it's gonna mirror back to us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So I wonder what your life says you believe. This is a really important question. This is the question that's kept me up at night. What does my life prove I believe? Because maybe what my life proves I believe and what I say I believe and feel to be true are not the same thing. Maybe my life doesn't validate my beliefs, that I believe God is for me. I believe God wants to prosper me. I believe God's going to heal me. Maybe my life doesn't bear witness to that. And then you have to ask yourself, the idea is not just to find the disconnection. Man, it is to create a connection. It's to forge the two together so that you can get seamless alignment, something we call coherence, something we call this beautiful way of being congruent so that we can be whole, right? Whole, all one. So I want you to really consider when you get past and you start looking at behaviors, well, okay, let's go one level deeper. So not only am I going to ask you two really important questions, I want you to go to work with these. One is, what does your life prove you believe? What does it prove you believe about you? What does it prove you believe about the world? Those are two vital questions. Because you and how you show up in the world are two sides of the same coin. What does your life prove you believe about you? And what does your life prove you believe about the world? Think about it. Right? So I'm just saying, I'm giving you a check on the first three. You passed all those three. Would your life give you the same hall pass? Would your life prove, is your life the evidence? Is it the witness of what you say you believe? If not, you and I have work to do. That's all. We have work to do. So the final question, I want you to consider this. We can reverse engineer this entire process. What do I mean? You have to ask yourself, to live that reality, what would I have to believe? That's what I mean by reverse engineer. To live that as a reality, what would I have to believe? We see it all the time. There are people who, I don't know, have 2 or 3 businesses, millionaires. Wonder what they believe to get that reality. Wonder what they believe to be successful at running 2 or 3 companies. I wonder what they believe, right? So I'm asking you a couple things. One is, what does your life reflect you believe? Because the confirmation must be beyond what you say, beyond what you feel. It must be in your operating system. And then your life will also reflect feedback loop. It will reflect to you what you believe, the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Not what you say you believe, not what you even want to believe. It'll show you what you actually believe. So the question on the hook for you is, what does your life say you believe? What does your life say you believe? And then number 2, what would you have to believe for your life to reflect a desired reality? What would you have to believe? Reverse engineer. What would I have to believe in order to start my own business, be wildly successful, make a few $1 million a year, have a legacy to leave to my children and grandchildren, what would I have to believe for that to become my lived experience? See, these are the questions you and I have to grapple with. If not, our beliefs are going to drive our expectations. Our expectations are going to drive our interpretations, right? And how we interpret the world, whatever that story is, I'm participating in the reality of that story. So I'm going to have more of the same unless I figure out where the disconnect and the dissonance is. Well, the disconnect is probably in the lack that we don't have the confirmation we think. We don't have the confirmation you and I think for what we say we believe. But that's a great place for us to begin. So the two questions I want you to grapple with as you're thinking through the confirmation: I intellectually believe it. I feel very strong about what I believe. My behaviors co-sign what I believe from time to time, but my life doesn't bear the fruit of what I say I believe. Dr. V, what's the problem? Right? My life is pointing to a deeper belief that is running the show. My life is proving that what I believe is anything what I'm saying I believe. It's radically different than that. So the question you have to ask yourself is, what does my life prove I believe? That's a great place for us to work. And then secondly, what do I have to believe, need to believe, to live the reality I desire, the lived experience I'm praying for? So remember I said, our beliefs are the jurisdiction that we build our reality within. Do you have the jurisdiction to build the reality that you desire? That's what these questions are gauging, right? Where's the disconnect? Where's the conflict? Where's the lack of congruence? Because if we can begin to do the work of rewiring, which is what we're going to talk about in episode 6, how to rewire, rebuild, recalibrate. Why? So we can have a different reality. I mean, that's what the whole season is about. It's so that we actually see new things. You and I actually get to experience new things. So start with looking for the evidence. Remember, confirmation bias, you have to really pay attention to see these confirmations, because confirmation bias is the program running in the background, and it's going to make you see what's designed to show you to support what you already believe. It's going to make you contradict everything that, ignore all the contradictory evidence. It's going to make you operate in alignment just like you always have and question why God isn't changing anything for you. So you got to go to work. Stay awake, alert, aware, so that you can begin to see where the breakdown is. What is your feedback loop really revealing to you? Listen, that's the most critical work I can lay before you. That's the game-changing work right there. That's the shift you and I are looking for. So the next episode, we're going to talk about how do we actually rewire, right? If beliefs are more than some fuzzy way of thinking, some grounded way of feeling, and they're actually a neurological pathway, how do we change neurology? How do we change the neural pathways? And I'm going to talk about that in episode 6. You won't want to miss it. Thank you for tuning in to episode 5. I will see you in the next one.